Hello folks, welcome to Thursday. We are 3/4 of the way through the working week anyway. Hope you're having a good one. And I hope as we come down to the weekend that you're feeling good and you're doing well. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. Please continue using that as we bust our way towards 20,000 subscribers. How amazing would that be? We always want to chase dreams here, so let's keep going. We're chasing dreams here. We're on our way. So if you could help me, then please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you think anybody out there could get anything out of my videos, then please make sure that you give them my videos and maybe they'll get something out of it. If towards the holiday season you're going to be getting yourself or anyone else some models, then please make sure you head on to Composite Games down below and you use the promo code Northern Exile to get yourself 5% off your order at checkout. Now, today is a bit of a heavy one. So, a while ago, I asked folks to send in some specific stories that showed the hobby being a positive force in your lives. More specifically, how it pulled you back from the brink. It's sort of a given that we will get negative stories on here sometimes, and that's not a bad thing, you know. They're funny to laugh at, and we can all live, you know, with a bit of catharsis every now and then. And not only that, those stories actually do better in the YouTube space. I wish they didn't, but they do. They get more views and they get more ad revenue, right? As much as I wish that were not the case, this video today needs to happen though. In a month of mental health awareness for men, let's jump on board and have a look at what happens when the hobby does good things. Because I think we're overdue one of these videos, quite frankly. We're overdue a video where we sit down and we essentially go over the hobby as a positive force in people's lives. Because it is. Far more than it is a negative one. It is a positive force. So, Jinx Cart says, "Hey North, when I was in my mid-20s, I lost my job and felt kind of worthless. I was living away from home in a city I didn't know very well. In fact, it was kind of in the middle of nowhere. Milton Keynes, to be exact. That's a depressing place in and of itself, but I literally hit rock bottom there." Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Milton Keynes is a city. It's not really a city, it's more of a town in the middle of the UK, in the middle of nowhere, which was essentially created by, well, the UK government, but it was created using the United States method of creating cities, as in, it's on a grid pattern, which is incredibly rare in the UK. In fact, I think it's the only one of the only major ones in the UK to actually have a grid system. It's soulless, it's plonked in the middle of nowhere, and it has a horrifically high self-deletion rate. Horrifically high. It's full of roundabouts, and it shouldn't really be there. Terry Pratchett talked about it quite a lot. In a place that doesn't really belong. It's sort of out of time and out of place. Kind of like Silent Hill. I would say it's kind of like Silent Hill. Anyway, like everyone else in my family, my siblings were all off doing great work in other countries, mainly warm ones with a lot of sunshine. And here I was in this dingy hole of an apartment with nowhere to go, in the middle of winter. One time a family friend saw me in the street and asked how I was, and she'd heard about the other siblings, but not me. She almost looked like she knew that she'd made a mistake by telling me that straight away. She knew my mother, so later on it hit me that she had asked my mum about her kids, and my mum must have left me out of her stories completely. Oh man. Man, oh man, that's horrible. That kind of crushed me. I left Milton Keynes about a year later after doing odd jobs to work in a friend's restaurant, and now I am running the place. A lovely, lovely ramen noodle shop. I love my job, and I'm kind of Japanese. What do you mean you're kind of Japanese? You're Japanese or you're not? I'm kind of Japanese, man. Okay, and I'm kind of Japanese. So it goes with my roots, I guess. So things worked out in the end. I'm earning good money and I'm in a job that I love. The thing was that I only realised how much slack the hobby was picking up when I looked back. I took it for granted. Now, I don't have the time. I really miss it. So I'll read that properly, shall I? Now I don't have the time. I really miss it. I didn't really frequent the Games Workshop store in my local area, but I did go to a bunch of gaming groups and online hangouts during the pandemic, and they were a massive help. Now, I am busy, and I mean really busy, and I don't really have the time to get as much hobby done as I'd like. The weird thing is that, as I said, without the hobby back then, I think I was in serious danger of doing something very silly to myself. Now I have a life I enjoy, but the hobby is a much smaller part of it. Maybe the hobby did its part already. Like it was there for me when it needed to be, and when I was alright, it stepped back. I know you've used a scaffolding analogy for the hobby around someone's mental health, and that is something I can attest to. I think that's exactly what it was. Anyway, thanks for reaching out and asking. Yeah, no worries, man. I think that's true as well. I think the hobby does act as a sort of mental scaffolding. It goes around your brain, goes around your mind. And sort of it takes your mind off of things that are maybe worrying you or, you know, shall we say, harming you, maybe in your mental health somehow, where you're just thinking, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to be around here anymore, or you could even be having the ultimate thoughts that you don't want to be having. The hobby is all-consuming. When you start doing it, when you start painting, that's what you're doing for now. You have to concentrate on it. Maybe you can have an audiobook on in the background, maybe you can do something like that, but you have to be concentrating on what you're doing. And I think that's why it's such an amazing thing to have as a sort of mental health tool. I do agree too. There are many people I know who left the hobby when they were okay again, and I think that is the greatest piece of evidence that I can give you that the hobby is an amazing thing to be into when you're down and out. Because so many people do the hobby when they're down, and when they're good, they sort of put it to one side. It's a weird phenomenon, but it does happen a lot. It does happen a lot. If you want a testament to how good the hobby is at doing this kind of thing, there it is. Right? The amount of people out there who use it in times of need, smash glass, you know, to help, sort of a thing, and then they put it down when they don't need it. Or they'll be really into it when their mental health is really low. They'll be really into it when they don't really want to carry on anymore. And then as soon as they're okay, they're kind of into it. You know what I mean? As soon as they're doing okay, they'll do a squad or two every now and again. But they won't be all in, not like they were. That's a really good point. Thank you very much, Jinx. Thank you. Aaron says, when I was in school, I was the butt of a lot of jokes. It's kind of weird, but I did a bit of a Neville Longbottom. I looked weird in my youth, but these days I'm an actual model. Although I'm a bit shy, I do date quite a lot and I do quite well for myself, and I make decent money too. At the time though, I hated my life. High school is one of those times that when I look back at it, my toes curl up. There are some memories there that I just do not want to go over or want to have surface too often. Warhammer was there though. In fact, in therapy recently, we've noticed, my therapist and I, that whenever I go over painful memories from high school, I always bring Warhammer up as a secondary thing. It's like it is a salve on the pain of that period of my life. A sort of mental painkiller, if you will. How weird is that? It's not weird at all. It's not weird at all. I do it as well. When I go back to certain harder parts of my childhood or harder parts of when I got back from America and things like that, I always bring up the hobby. It's always there, man. And it is just that, a mental painkiller for your memories. Yeah, exactly. It helped me at the time, and now decades later, it's still helping me. I don't really do the hobby anymore besides painting the odd squad for my display case, which is a shame. But the store back then and the people in it really pulled me through. I'd regularly go to Games Workshop almost in tears from another day of merciless bullying that I barely got through. Only to throw myself into my nearest corner and read from my White Dwarf. I was allowed one magazine a month and only got my models on birthdays and Christmas. The manager there would always come and speak to me. We'd get a bit of paper out and plan my ideal army and things like that all the time. I was so into Eldar, it was funny. By the time Christmas came around one year, I think I knew the 4th edition Eldar Codex from back to front. I'd even play small games with the manager, Dave, to get used to the mechanics with the store Eldar Army. That was the best day of my life. On Christmas Day, that year, my emotional mother watched me open my presents to reveal around 3,000 points of Eldar. 500 points of which my mum actually bought at the store. The rest, new in box aside from the outer plastic film being missing, was from Dave's personal backlog of models that he said he would never have gotten around to painting or building anyway. He'd just given them to my mum as a thank you for bringing him and I quote, a cool guy to hang out with, unquote, from time to time. Safe to say, that guy believed in me, talked to me about school, and even helped me with my history project as he did history at university, and that got me an A star in GCSEs in history. I never forgot that, and I never forgot how many amazing people like him there are in the hobby. Cheers. Well, there you go, dude. There you go. And that is another point of why the hobby is absolutely bloody essential. Again, we go over so many stories of bad things happening, you know, really, really, really bad things. Like it's almost like the news. People only want to hear negative stories, but I'm telling you now, the amount of really cool ones that there are out there. Absolutely. I've been waiting to do a positive 40k rants for so long. This is kind of like catharsis for me. I've been storing this up for a while because this hobby is amazing. The people in it are amazing. And you know, beyond the models, beyond the company, beyond Games Workshop, right? The people who make up this hobby are probably, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I am biased, but they are the greatest people in any nerddom anywhere in the world. Try getting this kind of support in video games. See how far you get. Yeah. Try getting this kind of support in Magic the Gathering. See how far you get. Anywhere else. Literally nearly anywhere else. Warhammer tabletop wargaming does it better. Honestly. Gratian says, hopefully you're named after the Roman Emperor, that'd be pretty cool. Anyway, Gratian says, alrighty North, this is a bit of a heavy one. This is about a friend of mine called Steve. A top bloke who always helped me when I needed it, and was the most ruthless Black Templars player I've ever seen. He would always make sure to lean over and ensure his opponent was happy and having a good time, even stopping games if the dice were way in his favour and suggesting they both head off and get a pint instead to just shoot the shit. He was that kind of guy. We'd known each other for years, and to be honest, I considered him kind of like a brother. A good guy all round. To say I was shocked when he took his own life at the age of 33 was an understatement. I was sure something weird must have gone on. Drugs, booze, a murder cover-up, anything. But Steve wasn't like that. He wouldn't do that. I was wrong, of course, but the pain was real. All too real. I've come across a lot of people like this when they've been around people who've self-deleted and have had enough. My grandpa was one of them, actually. Back in the day, there was a footballer by the name of Gary Speed, and I'm sure a lot of you who are football nuts will know who that is. Essentially, he was a guy who was on... Well, he was an ex-footballer. You know, he'd finished playing football, and he was on TV all the time as like a pundit, and he would always be happy and smiling and having a good time there. But really, I always thought that he was a bit... You could see that he was a bit sad behind the eyes. But not really, you know what I mean? He just seemed like... I put it down to, like, maybe he's awkward in front of the camera, like some of us are, you know? But no, he was found having, you know, taken his own life. And my grandpa didn't get it. He didn't get it at all. He literally thought, this guy, there's no way, he must have been murdered. Or he must have had, you know, a bust up with his wife and she hit him and then posed him that way. Or she must, you know, he just couldn't wrap his head around the fact that somebody who didn't look like he was depressed, or somebody that, you know, didn't quite, had the perfect life for him, right? He couldn't fathom why this guy had taken his own life. And I think sometimes you need to be very, very, very careful about judging older people. And when I say older people, I mean people who are like 45 plus. You need to be very careful about judging them by modern standards. We know these days that, yes, people do. Depression is that bad. It is that bad. It can get you at any time. And it can come down on you like a ton of bricks at any time. And it can torment you and push you and push you until that is the only way out. And it's the easiest thing you can do to stop the pain. People who have never felt that, people who are like in my granddad's generation maybe, who had to carry on for their families, who had to carry on and be there all of the time, people who've never really been depressed, or never really had the zeitgeist around them telling them that they were depressed, sort of a thing, they just don't understand. I don't know whether Gratian is one of those people, but I've known people who have, for instance, I had a friend of mine way back in the day. I'm not going to mention his name here, just in case he doesn't want me to. But he found his brother who had taken his own life. And for the longest time, he would speak about his brother as if he was still alive. And for the longest time, he was convinced that his brother had had some sort of mental break. That his brother had had some sort of untreated mental illness that wasn't depression. Because it was easier for him to think that way. And even he admits that to this day. He said, no, it was easier for me to abscond myself from responsibility by saying, hey, he just had something wrong with him that none of us ever saw. He doesn't want to confront himself with the realization that somebody that he loved that much felt that much despair right in front of him and he didn't see it. That's awful. No one deserves to go through that. They really don't. Anyway. I couldn't face the gaming club where we used to go together. For a few weeks, I was a complete shut-in. I blamed myself as I was his friend. I should have seen this. I should have acted. One bleak Thursday, I was thinking of Steve as it was the gaming group night once again, and there was a knock at my door. There were 10 people there. Some I recognised, some I didn't. All were from the local gaming club. They told me to come with them, to play some games, or they were going to invade my home and play there instead. They knew from the way Steve talked that I had an awesome gaming room. And I did, but it couldn't fit 10 people. So, I got my clothes on and went out with a small army. We had fun, rolled dice, and in the end, headed over to the bar as normal to talk, and we essentially laid Steve to rest that night. I went to the funeral a few days later and paid my respects, where I had a heart-to-heart with Steve's parents, and when I mentioned, even hinted, that I kind of blamed myself, they took me aside and aggressively, almost, told me that it was not my fault, and Steve would not have wanted that. Okay. I then found that Steve had left me his entire Black Templars force in his will. I checked with his folks and then donated it to the local gaming group. We called it the Immortal Black Templar Starter Army, or the Eternal Crusade Army. A 3,000 point list of lovingly cared for models that new people are given to play with when they come to the group for the first time in their first few weeks. Steve has gotten so many people into Black Templars from beyond the grave that he would be rolling in the aisles if he ever knew, and I hope he is out there knowing somehow. Wherever you are, big man, I love you, and keep on that Eternal Crusade. Cheers. Wow, dude. Wow. And again, I want you to examine all of these stories, for me. As somebody who likes this channel, examine all of these stories and subtract the hobby from them. Right? Take the hobby away from Gratian. He now doesn't have that support network with Steve. He's got to deal with that on his own. And he never gets to move past it. Take Games Workshop away from Aaron, who then has to confront a miserable time at high school. on his own, with no support, with nowhere to turn to. Take the hobby away from Jinx. Alright? Take the hobby completely away. He's in a time in his life where he's down and out. He has nothing going on. Everybody surpassing him. His siblings, his friends. He feels worthless. He feels like nothing. Take the hobby. Take that one last piece of driftwood that he's holding to in the storm away from him. Where does he go? He goes underneath the surface of the water is where he goes. The hobby does this for so many people. This was 3. I had to narrow this down to 3. These were 3 stories out of dozens. Dozens and dozens and dozens of stories that I had. I have more, but I kind of want to make this into a thing. I kind of want to make this into a once a month feel-good series where we go over how much of a cool place we've curated here for other people, you know? It's incredibly important that we do that, and we celebrate what we have. If you want to get into that kind of a thing, then please make sure you send them to Hobby Nightmares, and, you know, maybe preface them with, you know, positive story here. I'll be back with some more Hobby Nightmares tomorrow, where we're going to be having some fun, as we do, as per usual. But as we're into November, you know, the month of male mental health, I thought it was incredibly important to start doing videos like this. So, if you like what I do, subscribe. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye now.